Welcome to Recovery Unleashed, the podcast where we dive deep into transformation, healing, high performance, and recovery. I'm your host, Hannah Dalby. I'm the founder of Recovery Jungle, Recovery Unleashed. I'm an integral alchemist, food coach, a recovery expert, and also a retired professional Muay Thai fighter and current jiu-jitsu lover. In each episode, we explore what it truly takes to break free from addiction, trauma, self-sabotage, and unlocking a life truly filled with energy, success, and peace. Through my very own story of addiction recovery and raw conversations with experts, coaches, athletes, healers, we uncover the tools and mindset shifts needed to master recovery in every area of your life. This isn't just about healing, this is about unleashing your full potential. If you're ready to reclaim your life, tune in, do the work, and let's rise together. Welcome back to Recovery Unleashed. So today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to since the moment I found this guest on Instagram. Her name is Erin Moran, and she's a trauma specialist who works with women who have been chronically undereating and struggling to get the body and the life they actually want. We align so deeply in what we teach about food, nervous system safety, and long-term transformation that we literally swap sessions. I experienced her work, she experienced mine, and it just confirmed how much our worlds overlap. In this episode, we'll dive into why fat equals trauma more often than you realize, the hidden damage undereating causes to your metabolism, hormones, and nervous system, how trauma release can unlock the body change you've been chasing for years, and why eating more might be the thing that finally gives you the body you've been trying to diet your way to. This one is for every woman who's been doing all of the things and still not seeing results, and for anyone who's ready to stop fighting their body and start working with it. Let's get into it. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a lifetime we need to catch up upon.
I know. Well, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to be like, this is the start of the podcast and we do some of that kind of chit chat in there? Or do you want to keep it all professional and then we do a bit of chit chat before we get in there?
I think I'm open to anything. I love a mix of both. If we want a professional and just chit chat, I think that's perfect.
Okay. So let's just go. And it's now, I'll admit when you're listening to this, cut this bit out. That start was the start. Let's go. Okay, so from that perspective then, if this is the very, very start, before we go talk about all our random catch-up things, I guess it's important to say how we first met, which was I stumbled upon your Instagram and had a meltdown because you were doing all the things that I deeply, deeply believe in and got so excited. And then we spoke and I was even more excited. So, and then we've done sessions on each other in each of our modalities. And, you know, there is so much alignment in what we're doing. So how about you introduce yourself and where you've come from, what you're doing, all the things.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. So Erin Moran, and where I've come from is literally reversing obesity as like from a childhood perspective, and then like becoming the athlete at 17 years old and continuing that athleticism, right? Like the competitive amateur athlete from 17 until now, like I've never left it. And I still live through cyclical fat gain. Like it would boomerang every 3 to 6 months, no matter how little I ate or how much more I moved. And so that's like the foundation, right, of the Instagram that you stumbled upon and why I'm taking the angle that I'm taking, because it's literally what got my body out of it. And, you know, it's the complete opposite of what we're told.
Yes. And I guess this is why we're like got so excited about each other, because it's my story as well, right? Like I was an athlete. I was told to make weight all the time. It was done by undereating, like starvation, overtraining. I was so sick, had no reproductive system working, no digestive system working. My brain was ruined. My relationships were distraught. And coming out of it was like, oh, wait, I've got to deal with all of my bullshit and like eat heaps of food and get my nervous system to be calm and find out all the reasons of why I've been protecting myself. And then, oh, what do you know? It's like really easy.
it's like fat loss becomes easy after all of those things, right? But
Yeah.
it's all of those things. Like what I heard you say is exactly spot on and how I'm supporting clients. But
Mm.
it's such like the complete opposite of how we've been wired and conditioned
Yeah.
that, you and I on this side of the journey can be like, yeah, you really do get to basically eat, for some women it's double, and
Yeah.
you really will sculpt a body from this.
Yes.
And so we can say that, but like the reality of it is like in 2018 when my world came crashing down, right? No digestive system, no metacognition, like the brain, my brain's ability to even think was
Mhm.
like I was going through what felt like Alzheimer's in my 30s.
Yeah.
And stepping out of that is way more challenging than anyone will ever really believe.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have a look at the history of like the last 50 years or 100 years of like the crazy diet culture. I look at my mom and what she used to eat and the like she even now still gets plates this big, like these little tiny, like, oh, I better eat little, I better eat little. And when I sit down with clients and I look at what they're eating and I'm like, oh yeah, you got to double this. And they just like because it's so ingrained into our culture and it's like you're almost rewarded and given praise for having a small meal or eating a salad or doing this little tiny thing. And I've even noticed, as a woman that has a crap ton of muscle on her body now, the amount of food that's required to sustain that and give me enough energy, it looks crazy. And I see people look at me going like, oh my God. And even I still get like, oh, am I eating too much? You know?
Yes. And it's so real
Yeah.
because the reality of muscle mass, right?
Mm.
Our logical brain can understand that it weighs more, but the
Hmm.
logical brain is not the one in control of our plate ever,
Hmm.
typically
Yeah.
coming out of an intergenerational thread of women like being praised, to your point, to eat less and shrink themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, so same, right? It's like right now I'm 8 weeks into a fat loss phase and I'm eating 700 calories more than I used to eat every day before 2018
Yeah.
just because of the shift weight type is what I call it. How I explain it is, no, we're shifting weight type. Like it's not what the scale says, it's the type of weight you weigh more of.
Yeah. And looking at body fat percentage rather than what's on the. I mean, I get that, right? Like, I came from weight making sport. If I wasn't 68 kilos, I was not valued as a human being, right? So you can imagine,
That's it
like,
right there.
for a lot of years, like, this is ingrained. Like, oh, what? You're 72 kilos now? Fat piece of shit, muffin roll, like all of these words that are ingrained. And it's like the number on the scale, you've got to hit that number and never actually looking at the body fat percentage, never actually looking, oh, well, you haven't had a period in 7 years. Like, oh, it's okay though. Are you?
Yep.
And so even now, I'm like, yeah, yeah, but if I can just be like this specific number, then I'll feel really good about myself. And, we have an in body scan machine in our clinic, which
Mm.
shows the body fat percentage and the muscle mass. And it gives me a ranking in the world of other women, my weight, other like the whole thing, right? Some weeks
Mhm.
I am the top in the like number 10 in the world of body composition. And yet I'm still upset about the number on the scale.
It's wild, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
that right there, like that data is giving you a data point to illustrate how rare it is for women to have muscle mass.
Yes.
And yet the younger part of you who was so conditioned into like being judged and valued based on weight, like basically you weren't an athlete if you didn't weigh a
Yeah.
certain amount, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that younger part is like still wants to freak out. And it makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like total sense.
Right. And so this is the even crazier part, right? Like we know this. We've done all this work. We live and breathe it, and we're still battling with it in some days. So you can imagine like stepping into the shoes of people that we're working with that have no idea, like remembering how painful that can be.
Exactly. And it's painful in ways where some of them aren't ready for it.
Yeah.
right? But yet and which is why it's so critical to have support and so
Mm,
critical to have a community that's centered around being well fed. And like
mm,
that's 100% the reason why like I've named my Instagram Maintain Lean because it's not about weight loss. It
mm,
is about maintaining longevity, energy, abundance, and nourishment. And once that
mm.
becomes like the story inside, like the goalpost is literally, let's be able to get up out of a chair without low back pain well into our 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It's changing the generational outcomes.
Yeah. And then also the energy that you have to do your actual life. How much
Yes.
energy is being taken from obsessing about the number on the scale, about obsessing about the size of the clothes, about obsessing about what you look like on Instagram, about obsessing about can someone see this roll on me, obsessing about all of these things. Like that is so, I mean, I remember this in when, because I had a pretty chronic eating disorder in this without knowing, and my
Mhm.
entire cognition was just when's the next food? When's the next food? What am I going to eat? And then I get to it. How much is it? Have I eaten enough? Is it like too much? Did I, oh, like 100 grams, 120 grams? Will I get fat now? Like that is so much energy that doesn't get to be spent on having beautiful relationships, going to explore nature, going to like take in the world that we have, being able to be of service, being able to create something magical. What's worth it at the end of the day, like that number on the scale here, like it's amazing. I've lived to my 80 years old and I got to be 50 kilos the entire time, so I am now a valuable human. And or like whatever, who cares? I was strong, I climbed mountains, I loved, I had my heart broken, I had a family, I got to create something magical, I gave back to the world. Like that's what we're actually going to care about.
Exactly, right? It's like to your point, we're freeing up the brain space to actually step into mission, vision, purpose
Yeah.
and leaving that legacy and being of service. And that's what like literally also supports the maintenance of a lean and strong body because think about it as like I literally like to deduce it down to the moments, right? Our soul's vessel is a cumulative function of the amount of moments of purpose that we're remembering or the
Mm.
moments of trauma that are running our life that we're not conscious of, right? And that's where trauma gets so misunderstood because it's not about the event or how I like to teach it as this is a moment of shock that occurred before your prefrontal cortex was fully developed, which typically happens, it starts to happen in our late 20s. And anything before that, a moment of shock can shadow you away from that true, like your truth, your highest relevant truth for your life. And those fragments then are like the parts of us, the parts of our psyche that need the protection, which is where fat comes in.
Mhm. And then also, like, I love that. And I actually didn't know that the prefrontal cortex finished at 21. And now I'm going, oh, wow. Like all of those moments beforehand. And also, though, these energetic charges, right? Something we are live in a culture where it's not okay to express these emotions. Where, as women, we were told to be good girls and to not be upset. And why are you crying? And men are way worse, right? Like, do not have emotions at all. And so every time there's something that's happened, and we are unable to express it. It's never been safe to speak our truth. It's never been safe to truly. Sometimes an emotion requires a get on the floor and have a full scream out. And that's not okay. That's not how we perform. That's not how we operate. And so it all gets stored, and we've got all this energetic charge in our body, which is sending the nervous system, like keeping it stuck in fight or flight or fawn, or it's keeping the cortisol running really high, keeping us in an adrenaline state. You ain't losing any fat if your cortisol is like running up here all the time. You ain't losing any fat if your adrenaline's on 24 hours a day. Like, I mean, you probably can if you starve yourself and force it into place, and then all the other problems start to happen. And so, if we can allow these charges to be expressed, if we can allow these emotions to come out, if we can say the things that needed to be said in all of those moments, then it can be let go of, and we can, and now it's safe to exist.
Exactly. And that exact process that you're describing so eloquently, right? It was beautiful. That is like how I like to think of that is that's the formula for shifting your nervous system set point.
Mm.
So instead of being in that chronic fight or flight or fawn or collapse dorsal, like you get to establish a new normalcy in rest and digest or our ventral vagal nervous system. So this is all predicated off of polyvagal theory and bringing it in to fitness and weight loss or fat loss, right? Because that's where the bulk of, I mean, you look at disease statistics and we can tell statistically from a global perspective, it's like what we've been doing isn't working. Like that's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
clear, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think repeating that is just insanity. Like it
Yeah.
literally, and so with that being said, as you feel safe enough in your body to release and express and be able to cultivate inner relationships with all of these parts of you who
Mm.
experience things that, we were made to believe it was all our fault before that prefrontal cortex comes online, where it's egocentric, it's not your fault. But you literally will believe that because of how the neuroanatomy is working.
Yeah.
And so this is where it's like as you're able to release and name and notice and slow down and start moving and in connection with rest and digest, it's almost as if the light switch inside the body just goes on again.
Yeah.
And that's where, your gut health restores, liver detox restores. I mean, there's so many complex biological, mechanisms inside of our body that, eat less, move more it's just like this dumbed down version of something so extremely complex that, no, so many different variables and genetics and epigenetics and our lived experience and all of these things come into play. And so that's even like, within the blood chemistry and being able to learn that. Like I think of, quote unquote, how I got here, if you
Mm.
will, through the journey. And it's really this level of body sophistication that I never, ever, ever would have expected to unfold, to maintain lean and strong as an athlete.
So tell me about some of the other like biological things that are happening to people when they're eating less and moving more and nothing's happening.
Oh, I mean, that's Pandora's box, right?
Sure.
But like ultimately, right, when we're eating less and we're moving more and we're operating, I like to call it like we're operating in this state of unaware or an automatic obedience, right? Like the way I understand trauma from a biological standpoint is literally like the neurobiological like moment of it. And there's 7 or 8 different phases. And the last phase, as you're likely well aware of, is self-repair. But prior to that, our system gets put into automatic obedience. And what most homes, like we were missing when we grew up, because everything got swept under the rug,
Yeah.
was this process called self-repair.
Yeah.
And so when we're looping in an automatic obedience and, being very disciplined or believing that eating bad and self-sabotaging and really, pathologizing or thinking negligent of ourselves, a whole cascade of cellular mechanisms unfold. And when you think of the liver and there's 3 different systems that support detoxification, all of them are, I guess subdued, if you will, because it's going to follow nervous system state. So it's almost as if, right, your hunger sensations are going to crash, meaning you might not even get hungry. So
Mm.
you're like many women who start with me, the challenge isn't eating less. The challenge is eating enough
Yeah.
to shift their system out of the state where, fat is going on the body because like it's literally toxin pockets,
Yes.
right? It's not because of food intake only. Like we've been conditioned to believe it's this food intake barometer. Like I'm not going to deny that, yes, of course, food intake can impact this, but the majority of women aren't gaining fat because they're eating too much. It's because our toxins are being held in that because we can't detox them. Because
Yes.
that system in and of itself, just like, being able to digest and absorb nutrients from the gut, it's all being controlled by the nervous system.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
just like a tip.
the hunger cues is really interesting because I remember that taking 18 months before I was like, oh my God, I'm hungry. And then the other point was like I remember around and going, I've had enough. I'm full. And I reckon it actually was hunger came on first. And I was like, oh, like hunger, like actual hunger, not I'm starving, not I need dopamine, not I haven't had any delicious thing. Like actually like my body needs something. And then I've had enough took so long because it had been starved for so long. And I reckon it's still landing like 3 years of doing this since I gave up being an athlete professionally and doing the starvation thing in like, oh, I can have a couple of things and that's what I needed in that moment and putting a plate down and letting it go. And this, like, I'm actually done took that long.
Yeah.
Probably I didn't have this level of support, right? Like I was figuring it all out on my own, and there could have 1000% been this work that I'm offering that you're offering to people that would have made that happen faster. But to know when you're hungry and to know when you're full, that's just like one little element of it.
Yes.
That
Yes.
takes so, and you like if that starts to come online, and then of course the detoxification of it, like yes, it's the nervous system, and that's also a part of what you're eating. Like I noticed that the diet culture is like, well, it's just about calories in, calories out, so it doesn't matter if you get your calories from KFC or this processed food or, and so this is one of the things that makes me the most angry because I have dietitians that I see that used to be supporting me getting really mad about the unprocessed food fad and like, well, we should just be able to eat. And I'm like, are you goddamn serious? Like, okay, yeah, you might be able to get the calories in, calories out right, but at what cost? At what toxicity? At what energy levels are you going to have? How long are you going to live? Is your liver going to survive? Like, what are you talking about?
Like what I'm hearing you say, Hannah, is that you're picking up on like what I would relate to is like if it fits your macros, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah,
entire, right? Like it's
yeah.
basically eat anything as long as it fits your macros. And I agree with you, right? Because there's like how our bodies work. It's operating off of the nutrients we're able or not able to receive from food. And
Mm.
there's so many critical nutrients that our body can't manufacture unless we're actually able to absorb it in our gut, and then
Mhm.
through the gut to brain access, we can create neurotransmitters, et cetera, with it, which is how we're gonna feel, how you feel good, right?
Yeah,
Dopamine, all of those things,
yeah, yeah,
hormones,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all of that. And like one classic example is choline. Choline is like so critical for muscle connection, like for the acetylcholine neurotransmitter version of it, that like you look at women who are, where we've cut the yolk out of eggs and we're just like
Yeah.
fitting, dietitians have been like, and not all of them, but some of them, to your point, have just been, nope, you just have to hit this caloric goal. And
Mm,
it's not the full truth at all.
mm.
Like our, different types of protein are important, different types of carbohydrates are important, and different types of fat are important because our body is able to do so many different things based off of what it's absorbing in those nutrients.
Well, fat's an interesting one, right? Because fat's so important for hormones,
Hmm.
especially for women. And
Yes.
even I picked out my one of my apps the other day, and it was like, all right, like put in these details, and it shows you what you should eat. And there's like this minuscule amount of fat, and all of the, you know, the apps that are out there, and the here's the macros that you should eat, and it's this minuscule amount of fat. How do you expect your brain to function, your hormones to be balanced, all of these things to work with this like huge amount of carbs and this little tiny amount of fat?
Completely agree. And here's where it's like how I teach macros is always from this is not your ceiling, this is your minimum,
Yeah.
right? There's a range for fat loss, there's a range for maintenance, there's a range to build muscle, and these are the minimums, right? So I'm already flipping the script there. But then it's also about to kind of, it's almost as if a way to navigate that exact, like when we've got apps that automatically calculate things, and what you're
Yeah.
saying is the fat is typically you're starving your
Yeah.
own like internal messengers. Like if I think of
Yeah.
what hormones do, right? It's an internal mechanism, an internal messenger. And think of it, it's almost as if like what I'm teaching my clients is that the only individual out there that can actually find your true macro prescription is you.
Yes. Thank
because
you.
yeah, like I can't do it for you. I'm the guide. I'm a
Yeah.
lighthouse. But it's like there's an entire template I've got built in my membership for clients that literally supports depending on their movement and their true like metrics, if you will, right? Like height, weight, all of those things. And then their desired movement patterns that literally outline the minimums. And then I specifically say, most apps, fitness apps or diet apps are automatically calculating macros on certain percentages they think you need. It's a lie. And it
Mhm.
doesn't actually, like, they're not contemplating polyvagal theory, which is the
Yeah.
nervous system that is controlling all of these things.
And then you
And
look
so
at, you go, keep going.
but yeah, no, like yeah, like it's through that like that teaching where it's like you're gonna find your splits for you, and we're not using any type of fitness app to actually dictate what you're supposed to eat because your body is communicating it in symptoms, and
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
will communicate. I've trained my body to tell me when I need sugar, carbs, when I need fat, and when I need protein. Like it's no longer just this hunger craving. It is literally a macronutrient language that, it's for me, it's been 7 to 8 years in this. So I've got like, that amount of time where the mastery has taken place.
Yeah.
And now it's just like my body tells me when I need protein, my body tells me when I need fat. And it never is the cookie cutter generic percentages that I could log in to pick the app out there and tell them I want weight loss or tell them I want, whatever I want, and then they'd automatically calculate. It's never that way at all.
I love that you've said that so much. That is makes me very, very happy. And there's two things I want to say in here. And one is those numbers will change.
Yes.
And when you're severely stressed out, your body's in overdrive, you've had cortisol running, you probably need a lot more to actually make it feel safe. And what I've noticed in the journey is I had to really like up the food for it to be like, okay, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe. Pull back the training for a really long time to go, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe. And then as my nervous system has become safer, and as my cortisol has dropped, my adrenaline has let go through doing lots of alchemy work, through building a really beautiful, safe relationship, from eating enough food, from putting down like all the different components of it. And now it's safe to have a little less. Now it's safe to increase the training a little more and listening of like, oh, wait, you've pushed too hard, bring it back. And I love that. And the other part of this is, this noticing what you actually need in that some days, like I eat a lot of meat and my body
Mhm.
needs that and I love it and it makes me happy and all the nutrients come from that. And then some days I'll be like, I can't eat this. And it's like, that's because you don't need it today, my love. You know? It's
Exactly.
just because you don't need it,
Ex
and that's okay. And it can shift and change and move. We're freaking going on hormonal cycles like this. And I teach a cycle in a month for women that allows them to cycle in and out of carbohydrates according to their hormones. And in the beginning, it's like don't count a thing. Eat as much as you want of these things in this time. Just give your body this type of food in this time and this type of food in this time. It gives progesterone and estrogen the things that it needs. Don't even worry about how much it is. If you're hungry, goddamn eat it. We can add some fasting in, we can give your gut breaks, and you will start to feel and understand what different things feel like. And like allowing people to make mistakes in it. Like I did this and then I felt like this. Amazing. You're getting in tune.
Exactly. Like what I'm hearing you say is that approach is so similar, right? Like
Yeah.
you're literally providing space for women to be able to become in tune with their own body
Yeah.
as they're feeding. And
Yeah.
another one of those practices that I've, found myself teaching clients over and over again is we're feeding across all time zones. We're
Mhm.
feeding forward and we're feeding backwards. And
Mhm.
meaning there are going to be parts of you that remember the smell of chocolate chip cookies at grandma's house. and those parts can have the damn chocolate cookie,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's not emotional eating, for crying out loud, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it's literally being able to honor that part so they feel safe, heard, and understood, and they come into the future with you.
Mm.
That makes that, like, that concept literally supports the maintenance of that new body set point so many women are looking for.
Yeah.
And the same, like, with feeding forward, like, there are some days that I'm just not hungry.
Yeah.
But I know, like, based on what, like, my goals the next day in the gym, or based on the average, intake over the 2 weeks, that I'm gonna have to sit down and eat something. And so in my brain, I'm not eating out of gluttony. It's like I'm literally feeding forward because I know what my minimum is, and I don't want to wake up tomorrow without the energy my body requires to, like, thrive.
Yeah. Tell me about then, how all of this links to building muscle and how muscle is important in terms of anxiety and burnout and actually having the body.
That's such a beautiful question. And it's like muscle is imperative to not just the sculpted body the majority of women are looking for, not just athletic performance. If you want to really curate the identity of the athlete, like, and not necessarily meaning you have to do that competitively. It literally just could be your performance with weights in the gym. So muscle, like, does all of these things for us, but it also is so critical for the reverse of disease. It's
Hmm.
really the only tissue that we can gain, and should be desiring to gain forever and protecting it, because it's a metabolic sink. Like, it enables the intake of fast carbs or carbohydrates in general without an insulin spike.
Yeah.
So, that's like, it's like a magic, that's just magic right there, is what that
Yeah.
is, as far as I'm concerned, right?
It solves
Like,
all the problems.
all, all the problems.
Yeah.
And I find that, like, if I really, think about it, like, I was quote unquote a marathoner and competitive amateur athlete my entire life. And in my 20s, I didn't have the muscle mass.
Mhm.
I've literally had to develop, through the neuromuscular junction, the mind muscle connection from the ground up. And the body I live in now, it's night and day different than the body I had in my 20s and even into my 30s. And I'm 40 right now.
Mm.
And that's all muscle. It's sure, aesthetically, sure, it's, that's the look you want. I get it, right? The aesthetics, but it's so beyond aesthetics, beyond it. Disease reversing, longevity enforcing, like, movement, like, capable well into, your older age, instead of relying on, for lack of a better descriptor, sick care.
Yeah. You lose 5% of your muscle mass every decade, whether you train or not. So if you're not building it, you're definitely losing it. And by the time you're 70 or 80, you've got nothing left. You're falling down some stairs, breaking a hip, and you're one of those people now.
Yep,
And there's this big
exactly.
move around, longevity, and we want to live a really long time. And before you go and do any biohacking or take any crazy supplements or get stem cells, like, go lift some weights and eat enough food to build that muscle, because that will do more for you
Mhm.
before. In fact, some of these things won't even work very well unless this is done.
Exactly.
And I even see on the in-body scans we have, it actually scans for cell health, like cell membrane integrity. And I look at the different people that come through, and the more muscle they have, the healthier their cells are, whether they're drinking and eating shit or not. If they have high muscle mass, their cells are functioning, are stronger. And this is where, if you look at a cancer patient, their cell health is down below, like in the guts, like that's the level of sickness that creates. The high cell health is like the opposite of that, right? You are not getting a disease, you are not going to get sick. And that is very, very, very clear that that comes from high muscle mass.
Exactly. Like, and so from that cellular perspective, right,
Yeah.
muscle mass becomes like, it's an armor of literally helping you thrive, like, in life, but also from a cellular perspective.
Mhm.
And that, like, it's just nothing can take it away from you.
Yeah.
And with that, as, like, when I think of, like, the higher muscle mass percentage that you have with, and you don't have to be a bodybuilder for this by any means, right? Like, so
Yeah.
many women are so scared that they're going to become like this jacked out bodybuilder if they lift
Yeah.
heavy and they eat enough, and it's so not the truth. But it shifts your entire system. And I like to think of it as like, well, if, we're this thing on Earth spinning around in a solar system and our weight against gravity, like if you think about it from a muscle science perspective, the more you weigh like you want to weigh the most you possibly can at a body fat percentage that is of, recreational athlete or is low enough for you to feel like quote unquote healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't even know how we solve this problem without just keeping on talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and doing some of this deep emotional work around the number on the scale. Because I have clients come in and they're building muscle and they're stripping weight, and I'm showing them the photos and they're shrinking down and they're starting to look amazing, and their partners are going, oh my God, your ass looks so tight, and all these beautiful things are happening. And then they're like, yeah, but I just want to get to this number. And I'm like, what do we do? How do we change this collective psyche problem other than just keeping on saying it and saying it and saying it and making it okay and posting how much my weight is on Instagram to go like, can you see that my body fat percentage is literally 19% and yet I weigh this much money? Who cares? So
Exactly.
weigh this much kilos. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I also post on Instagram in my stories my weight as well. It's the
Mm.
same concept, right? Because like I truly believe like what we know now, like we're very clear that BMI doesn't tell the whole story. But at least here in the States, that is ultimately that conditioning. Women are
Yeah.
looking to get into the non-obese or non-pre-obesity BMI metric. And right now, there's science that's out there that states that BMI doesn't tell the full story whatsoever at all,
Well, it's a whole heap
right?
of
Like you can,
shit. The
it's
whole thing is a heap of
100%.
shit.
100%, right? But it's so, to your point on the collective, it's so baked in to
Mm.
medicine and conditioning and the
Yeah.
automatic obedience that takes for that happens when, we've collectively been in such a eat less, move more, smaller is better, and all of these stuff like overarching energetic that to your point, I think it's just critical that more people speak out about this,
Yeah.
especially women.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the scale used to freak me the hell. I mean, it used to freak me out, literally.
Yeah.
And now I can watch my body gain 15 pounds over a year when I'm in a build phase and literally get on, and there's no critical voices inside, and
Yeah.
there's nothing but love for literally like whatever it says, because I know it's part of the process and the journey. But even that nuance, Hannah, like that nuance is so controlled by our nervous system set point
Yeah.
that it's the education about the nervous system, and it's some pretty cultural shifts that need to take place at an infrastructure level to
Yeah.
really start to see some massive change.
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad that I've got a client that we put her on the scan machine. We want to see what's happening as we're working with her. And I have to blindfold her. And then I put her on the machine. And sometimes the machine freaks, like her nerve, because it's sending electricity waves up, right? It's sending all these hertz frequencies up to measure everything. And her nervous system gets so panicked that the machine just can't read anything and it loses its mind. This is the level of nervous system chaos that's happening inside of looking at a number on a scale.
Yes.
There's so much work that needs to be done.
So much work that needs to be done. And I'm finding the same is true for my clients,
Yeah.
right? Even without an in-body, it's the number on the scale will literally create the spiral of thoughts into
Yeah.
shame. It's like an
Yeah.
automatic shame, just like trigger. And
Yeah.
the other numbers that are very scary for women are calories.
Yeah.
When they see their maintenance needs, and there's been education around what BMR is, what BMR is doing for your body, what TDEE is, totally daily energy expenditure, and then the different like calibers and phases of eating. When they see those numbers, they're literally deer in headlights frozen.
Yeah. I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah,
For some context, I lost 15 kilos eating 3,000 calories a day
exactly.
because I had been so starved for so long that all that happened was my nervous system got to be safe. And so that first 15 came off.
Yep.
That's
I
all
have a
that
very
happened.
Yeah, I've got a very similar story. I doubled
Yeah.
my caloric intake. I went from very strictly keto in
Mm.
2018. Over the course of 3 months, we doubled that intake, and I watched over 6 inches on my waist just literally melt. I
Yeah.
didn't change
Yeah.
my training. I ate more and only ate more.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I was scared, right? I
Yeah.
was watching my carbohydrate count go from, you gotta say under net 25 and to like in the hundreds and simultaneously performing better in the gym, sleeping better at night, and then watching a waist just literally just chisel out.
Yeah. And so this is really interesting, right, though, because I love keto and I just don't think that anyone should do it for a very long period of time. Like gut issues, carnivore for 6 weeks for gut issues, amazing. Men cut, keto for a decent amount of time, they can handle it. They can handle it really, really well. And I also don't think they should do it forever because carbs are there for a reason and we require them, especially if you're training. So if you're doing nothing, and I've definitely spent times of my life in the last 3 years just chilling the hell out, you can kind of maintain a little less carbohydrates. And I can do a month and, maybe not around my period, but do a month of pretty low carbohydrates. You add any training into this, and you don't have carbohydrates, you watch your brain function disappear, you watch your digestive system disappear, you watch your moods go to shit. And this is where it's about supporting what your actual lifestyle is, and it is different for everyone. Cycling in and out of it and giving yourself some space away from carbohydrates because of Alzheimer's and diabetes and insulin spikes and all of these things is an amazing thing to do. If you're then going to do some really hard training and you're not supporting that with carbohydrates, everything else does fall to shit. And so it's like finding a balance that really works for exactly what your lifestyle looks like. If you're training really hard in the morning, support it with the carbohydrates. If you're not training until the afternoon, you can 100% do a whole morning without any carbohydrates, let the brain be fired up in that keto state, and then support it.
What you're speaking to here is so critical because it's like and I completely agree, right? There are medicinal excuse me, medicinal reasons to shift our macros for short or longer periods of time, right? But like being able to even have this conversation requires so much nuance and the
Mm,
opposite of black and white thinking,
yeah.
because what you're illustrating here is literally the individualization, like going away from one size fits all and getting specifically tuned in and decoding your own body, not because something fails, but because we're so used to believing that we have to step in and go, if we leave something that we start, we're quitters.
Yeah.
And like for a classic example here is there's a a client of mine who joined my membership many months ago, and just this past week like asked a question, and she was so brave. Like I watched her throat shake, I could see her body shaking.
Mm,
She's like, Erin, I before I found you, I've been in this Overeaters Anonymous group, and they forced me to identify as an Overeaters Anonymous, but what I'm learning here with you, like I don't want to identify as that anymore. And it like what she was struggling with, it wasn't necessarily just expressing that truth, but it was literally realizing that for her to shift and change and to step into her next level, she had to leave behind a group that was very supportive for her. And so it's this concept of having to do something just because you start it and do it forever. That concept
mm,
there, that's what I got stuck in, right, with keto. It was
yeah.
that concept. It was way, 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 way too long. I was like
Yeah.
years I was doing it
Oh,
as like
shit.
as someone who was in the gym 6 days a week, sometimes doubles, guys. So that's like that case that Hannah spoke to. Like I was not the one to be doing it,
Yeah.
right? Even though after the first 3 months, I felt amazing,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of that for me masked gut health issues. And
Yeah.
that's also what I end up seeing is sometimes it's used as a temporary solution for a gut health,
Yeah.
dysbiosis like problem, if you
Yeah.
will. Even though strategically there are absolute, medicinal cases for a reduction in carbohydrates. It's
Yeah.
wild though that we like to step into certain things and, think they have to work for everybody, because that's where we get into trouble.
Or forever. And this is true for
Yes.
everything, right? Like it's like, well, I went to the chiropractor once and it helped, so now I must go forever. When what is true is you might need that this week and then a massage the next week, and then you need to stretch for a while, and then you need to lift some, like it flows and moves and you become a different person all of the time. Your gut changes all of the time. What is right for you in January might be very different for you in August as seasons change and your gut changes and your stress changes, and maybe you bring in a relationship and now your nervous system calms down and a different thing is required. Like it's an ever-changing thing. So to go like, this is the answer, it's really funny, right? Because as humans, we grasp onto an answer, we think we've found it, and then we want to tell the whole world, this is the thing you must do. I've been there.
Oh, same. I totally played that game 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's actually the really interesting thing that's come out of being really deep in this integral alchemy work. And I was talking to one of my staff yesterday who were just, she's signed off, about to be signed off as a certified integral alchemist, and what the undoing of all of this judgment that's within us, because this is what it requires to really hold safe space and to allow people to have their own sovereignty and to have their own answers and to find their own truth, is to let go of all judgment and all projection, and that we no longer have to have all of the answers, and that people can take a really long time, and that's okay. And even though this has been working for us, that may not work for them, and that's okay. And the more we undo all of this stuff within ourselves, our own judgments about what things should be, about what people are doing, our own projections about how things should be, it actually allows people to step into their own sovereignty and find their own truth. And that creates more safety than you could ever imagine, which then loops all the way back into their entire system, calming down at another level and being able to find their own truth with just a little bit of guidance.
I couldn't have said it better myself. 100% agree with you. That sovereignty is so key.
Mm.
And when you think of like losing the judgment and losing the projections, we also have this like threat detection system in our body that's going off 27, 24/7, 365. It's known as neuroception. And like our lived experience can like create that as faulty neuroception. And that's where, right, if you think of it, that's like your system is scanning the environment for threat or safety without your conscious awareness. It is just going off like nonstop. And that's where some of those projections and judgments are
Yeah.
coming from,
Yeah.
right? And so it's as we start to rewire that and we're able to then step into a world, or at least a reality for you, that actually ends up being more safe. It is exact sovereignty, which is 100% why. Like, it's like I truly think of myself as more of a lighthouse, which is very similar. Hannah, you've shared your methodology as well, and we're so similar in that
Yeah.
because I'm helping women develop sovereignty with fitness and food. Right. And
Mm.
those are those two areas where it's like, no, actually, you're going to become the self-led authority where you don't need a diet ever again because your body is going to quite literally speak to you and you're going to be able to decode it. And it's like without that connection to our body and our intuition or that sixth sense, as, safe, not faulty neuroception,
Mhm.
it just makes life so much harder on all the levels. Like if you think of, wellness isn't just a physical dimension. Wellness it is emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, like it's intertwined across many dimensions. And so often we're just trying to force our body to weigh less on a physical plane, completely forgetting that all of these other dimensions need to be updated to maintain the
Yeah.
body that the body transformation that you're going for. Because yes, it presents physically, right? Like that, we all understand, we can see it. All of these other dimensions behind the scenes are actually what the transformation takes place there first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it's way more of a death and rebirth process and a metamorphosis that is metabolically expensive. So back, to circle back around, it's like the less and less and less you eat, the more you're literally creating challenge in the other dimensions of wellness for your body then to quote unquote manifest as lean and strong in the physical.
which then presents in other ways, right? So once you start sorting out this stuff, you can receive more love because you can receive nourishment. You can receive more money because you can receive nourishment. Your capacity expands so you can create more change. In fact, whether you rock up going, I want to make more money, I want to find a beautiful relationship, I want to stop having arguments, I want to lose weight, it doesn't actually matter where you start. It will just happen regardless, right? So I worked with a client at the start of the year, or a few months ago, actually, and it was about, all right, let's get the weight off. And not one of the sessions had to do with weight, it had to do with old stress in business, shitty business partners, unsafety, like all of this other stuff that was about being seen, that was about not needing to protect themselves, like the actual stress that was just being held onto that wasn't able to be processed. And then it was like, oh, well, then I'm quite happy to eat the food.
Exactly. 100%. The same is true for my sessions with my clients.
Mm.
Rarely are we ever talking about food and fitness.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
almost always relational stress or
Yes.
relational trauma or relational patterns that are playing out in their external reality that they need support processing
Yeah.
to then feel safe enough
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
provide themselves their own needs.
Yeah.
Because for so long, we were taught that we couldn't have any needs. And
Yeah.
lean and it's like number one. Number two, lean and strong needs is a completely different conversation as compared to what needs to happen for weight loss, just
Yeah.
generic weight loss,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's an entire an entire bank of lean and strong maintenance needs that like it's almost like you're becoming fluent in a completely different language than any weight loss camp could have ever taught you.
Yeah. So here's a question I'd like to pose then is for like the people that are in this journey is if you've been the ideal weight before, were you happy then?
Exactly. And that question is so critical. It's so critical. And so often women are trying to get back to this number that they remember actually just feeling more purpose. They remember feeling more alive in. They remember feeling something, higher vibration than they're currently feeling now, and they've attached it to a number.
Yeah.
And what I find so often throughout working with clients is once their body feels safe enough to generate those emotions completely detached to the number they're weighing on a scale, they don't care about the scale anymore.
Yeah. Because it was validation, it was attention, it was being seen. So, those are the things that come with, well, I've starved myself skinny and now I'm getting attention. Now I'm being seen. Now I'm being validated. And so that's actually what you're looking for. So if you can find a place within yourself to, as you are as a human, to be seen, to find tribe that validates you, to have all of these needs actually met, then whatever. And that becomes the thing that allows you to let go of it anyway, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you know then? How would someone know if undereating is their block?
Such an important question, right? And the only true way to know if undereating is your block is to become aware of what you are eating and then to become aware of what your lean and strong needs look like. And so that's typically a process that's very scary for many, 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 many women, mostly because they're in such a health related cognitive overload like state already that their capacity to start tracking their food, again, not from a restriction perspective, not from any of the like, like heaven forbid you eat more than this, like frame at all. You change the frame completely. And once you start to become aware of what that current intake looks like, it's learning what your needs look like to build and maintain lean and strong. That is like the practical, right? Physical way. Other ways to know if undereating is your block. It can come from literally symptoms, right? Not sleeping through the night,
Yeah.
like PMS, right?
Hmm.
Like it's like once you start to solve for the nourishment that your body requires to thrive, um, what we see is those things resolve themselves.
Mm.
Sleep comes back.
Mhm.
Any adverse symptoms, whether it's PMS or anxiety, et cetera, can also start to come back with the caveat of, if this has been predicated for decades and years, there likely is some additional intervention and support that's needed just because it's like your body has like after chronic 5, 10, 15 years in this, which a lot of women in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s
Mhm.
live through,
Mhm.
right? That's their truth. There's like the symptoms that begin to speak are also classically, labeled as other diseases.
Yeah. I mean, I would also point to if you have a single day of eating the things that you don't normally and you put on kilos, lots and lots of pounds, it's probably likely that you're under eating. So, I mean, I remember being in this stage where if I did like one bad day, it just goes all the way up because my body was like, I need everything. And in a like in a natural state, that shouldn't happen.
Couldn't agree more. Exactly. There are so many times I can refeed, or meaning I can eat more on, specific days during the week. And sometimes I see the scale drop, and other
Yeah.
times I mostly see it just stay the same.
Yeah.
Because, like, to your point, it's like my body is operating off of, I like to think of it as like the body shifts after 2 weeks of consistency in something,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So it's like it's not your body isn't responding to yesterday. It's some most of the times it's responding to 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
and the last 2 weeks of intake that you've had. And that's where it's like as you learn to become comfortable in monitoring intake over time, or at least being aware of what those needs are, like the things that you're afraid of now evaporate.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I remember being afraid of avocado. So, and I think that's another point. Like, if you have a look at yourself and you feel like you're afraid of certain food, you're afraid of butter, I mean, I think it happens a lot with fat. People are afraid of these fat sources. You want to see how much butter I load onto all of my food, in my coffee, you know what I mean? Like, I am just like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
remember when I first started having to, and I was like, what do you mean I've got to eat a whole avocado? You don't understand what will happen to me. If those are the thoughts happening to you, it's probably very likely that you're under eating or doing a restriction that's unhealthy.
Agreed. That's like I like to think of that as food noise, right? That
Yeah.
food noise, I don't live in that anymore. And it disappeared through, multiple aspects. It was food intake oriented,
Yeah.
right? Like meaning eating enough for a long enough period of time where my brain could just give up the job of all of the food noise, but then
Yeah.
also doing, like building new neural networks that can spend energy in internal conversations filled with love
Yeah.
instead of internal conversations about food moralization and the food noise that is rooted in fear. So I
Yeah.
completely agree with you that that is
Yeah.
such a classic symptom of overeating. And it's also so intertwined with just our operating system and how our operating system attachment is actually been how it's been oriented from our childhood.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
I mean, food is connection. Like, food is connection. And then also, not eating very much is approval. So that's a whole fuckery.
Yeah, completely. We could literally have a whole podcast just on that fuckery alone.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so do you think this is possible to do without deep trauma work?
No, there's not a cell in my body that could be here or guiding women into sovereignty without deep trauma work.
Yeah.
That being said, I do believe there are ways, in terms of memory of reconsolidation, where you also don't have to relive it, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people are afraid of like quote unquote deep trauma work, but what it really is nervous system regulation and emotional fitness.
Mhm.
And your emotional fitness and your nervous system regulation, like that, like literally will dictate the scale or dictate how your body looks more than food.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. The reliving of it is you go to a psychologist and it's like, tell me about the thing. And it can be re traumatizing sometimes. And the way that these things are dealt with aren't very good for the most part.
Mhm. No.
And I mean, from what I do, it's like we can take you to a feeling and get that feeling to speak and get it to move out and get you to express some things. And it can be over pretty quickly. And I noticed I had a client, I've got a client still working with actually completely around weight loss. She is quite overweight because of deep trauma in her childhood, like horrendous trauma in her childhood. And she's been to a psychologist for 2 years straight and got nowhere. We did 4 sessions. She lost 9 kilos and was like, what the fuck am I even doing going there? It can
Yep.
be done quite fast and it can be done quite safely.
Mm.
And it doesn't always need to be this reliving and re traumatization or anything like that. In fact, I think if we're always looking towards where we're trying to go rather than just what the hell happened to you, the framing comes completely different. It's just, I'm trying to get here and this is in the way. Let's get rid of it and let's keep going.
Couldn't agree more. Like what you're speaking to is just another one of those gaps,
Mm.
right? And we've been so conditioned to think that it's just mental health, and it's not. Like, what we know about the vagus nerve is that, 80% of the data that's hitting your brain is like flowing up from your body. So when you're able to sit with and learn how to sit with some of those really hard emotions that are, like literally stuck like in the body, keeping the score, it frees up so much space in your brain. And that what you're able to fill in that space when guided by, safe co-regulation in a trauma-informed way is nothing short of extraordinary. And it doesn't have to take the years of, counseling and therapy that most of you are already in.
Yeah. So I think, if you're one of those people that is feeling stuck and thinks they've tried everything and nothing works, a little word of encouragement that there are things that are starting to exist in the world that are beyond, it's new and it's beyond what has been done before. It's not another bloody coaching person with the same bullshit. It's not another therapist that thinks they know all of the answers. It's really amazing, actually, because in the last couple of months, I've found you. There's a couple of other women that I've found. This Capricorn energy coming through of like God or sources sent through, like it needs to shift. And I'm going to push it through you women who are chaotically ADHD that need to, that are going to like self obsess and get manic about it and really like give it to the world. But there's new things that are emerging.
Yeah.
Gavin and I, who you're about to meet in a couple of minutes, we
Yes.
should probably call this and get on the phone to him. But the fourth wave of psychology, it's different than it's ever been
Yes.
before. And there are
Yes.
answers and there are ways out. And it doesn't need to look like the next 10 years. We can get this done in the next 12 months.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the transformations, if you want to call them that, or the shifts, right, that can take place in a short period of time can literally blow your mind.
Yeah.
Like something as simple as, not having a relationship with the gym for over 20 years and then stepping back in less than 6 months and absolutely loving it and
Yeah.
finding like orgasmic states, that's
Yeah.
unheard of
Yeah.
traditionally.
Yeah.
Unheard of,
Or being able
right?
to
And
talk about orgasmic states and be able to ask, like, speak out loud your sexual desires. That doesn't
exactly. That's
happen in
typically
other spaces.
repressed. Yeah.
You want to see what happens to your body when you're allowed to be in your feminine sex energy.
Yes, exactly. And that, like, right there, just speaking into the feminine energies, right? Like, how there's so many of them that are out there, and so many of them that have been labeled as wrong, like
Yeah,
on multiple different, you're too much, or, and without the ability to kind of surf those feminine energies, like the lover, like you're speaking into the lover, and
mm,
that is impacting, marriages, it's
yeah,
impacting internal relationships, as
yeah,
well as, just the whole concept that we're not made to be the same person every year.
yeah,
You touched on this a while ago, but the seasons and the
yeah,
cycles
yeah,
they're so critical, especially as women, who cycle monthly, like it's so critical to marry and sync up with the seasons, even with nutrition.
Yeah.
And that's really been like, and emotions, right? That's been the game changer.
Yeah. I think, and the more I talk about this, the more I think it's like it's coming all the way back to Tantra, and it's coming back into this somatic, and it's coming back into this. I had an experience I've been working through abandonment. I did some work with you around it as well. Over the last month, I've dropped 3 or 4 kilos of fat just because of dealing with that stuff. And in a sexual experience with my partner last weekend, like the last parts of it, and the trauma release inside of that was so big, but I had worked through to create this safe space to express the rawness, the animalness that needed to come out, and all of that. And the tears that came after that were the tears of the 34 years I haven't been able to express this part of myself, that this has been stuck inside of me, and it's been so big and so loud and so warrior and animal, and it's never been allowed. And to like let that out and to be held and to be safe in it, you want to see what the next month does. And I know it. And it's not just happening with my body, it's happening in money, in the business, in my, like, it's all of it together.
Yes. I mean, 100% agree, right? Like that is such a critical energy of, I mean, it's sacred. And I
Yeah.
feel like where the collective is going is bringing the sacredness back into, whether it's in the container of a sexual relationship, or the container of some other safe space where you're able to start to get into relationship with your own feminine and masculine energies. And as they kind of they dance and they reestablish a relationship together, it's like you talked about the warrior queen, and she's coming out from an archetype perspective. I fully believe that archetype is coming out in massive quantities right
Yeah.
now, because there's been so many different avenues across the collective that have held back what the feminine role is in co-creation.
Hmm.
And just hearing how impactful it was on your side, and I know even same for me,
Yeah.
like just being, I mean, for me it's like, wait, a sex drive, a libido, I didn't know what that was until like I was mid
Mm.
30s.
Yeah.
That was that like that my body couldn't even generate that for most of
Yeah.
my life
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Well,
of
you want to talk about
malnourishment.
getting stuck in masculine energy, go and overtrain and undereat.
Exactly. That is
Yeah.
100% like the A plus way to get
Yeah.
stuck in over masculinization.
Oh, how did I stay single for so many years? Well, maybe that, maybe that like training for 7 hours a day and never eating, and like being like, fuck you to anyone that walks near me, because I had no heart energy, no sexual energy. And I was like emotionally drained to no
Yep.
wonder. Eat some food and look
Exactly.
what arrives.
I mean, we get to laugh about it now, but like it couldn't be further, like it couldn't
Yeah.
be more true,
Yeah.
right? Like that energy within women is metabolically expensive to even generate.
Yeah.
Metabolically expensive meaning it literally takes calories for your
Yeah.
body to feel safe enough to even start to play, even
Yeah.
step into what, some of those desires may look like. And desire is such a, that's a powerful word. We're often not asked, what do you desire when you're older? It's always, what are you going to do? Well,
Yeah.
doing is very masculine in and of itself. So it's almost like this journey is literally about coming back into just being present in your body, and then being able to step in and shift your vocal tone and your energy
Yeah.
as if you're playing an instrument.
So, vulnerable question then, what's something that you desire that you wouldn't normally have said out loud before?
Oh, I would not have said out loud before that I like deeply, deeply, deeply desire is that like divine union type relationship. Like if you want like the archetypes of it would be the warrior queen and the warrior king. Like that in a partnership is absolutely something that I never used to let myself even like step into. And a
Yeah.
lot of that work has been like understanding where my own standards are, and
Yeah.
being able to claim my own standards and
Oh,
detach from the too much, that just me being me was literally told all throughout her career and her childhood. And a lot of that, like too much, is coming from a masculine or a man, right? Who
A
isn't
boy.
in contact, correct, with his own emotions.
Yeah.
So they can't, actually hold what we're expressing when we're expressing from truth.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to learn that in my own relationship journey. And
Yeah.
so like that desire, like it's, I've sacrificed if I need somebody to step into the gym with me, and that is no longer getting sacrificed now. Like that was the last year's lesson. Like
Yeah.
literally the last year's lesson. And I'm like, oh, that just means I have a standard to raise here
Yeah.
because it like that's a magical sanctuary for me. And if a partner it doesn't share that same energy, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tried it. Been there, done that.
Well,
Yeah. How about yourself?
it also speaks to the value systems, right? And I used to think as a fighter that I wanted another fighter because that I lived in the gym and I married to the gym and that was a problem. And with my relationship now, it's actually like it's about the value system of wanting a higher truth, and being in the gym puts you in a higher state, and eating the right food gives you a better energy. So it's actually the desire to live in this higher vibration and to want more from life and to suck the juices out of every part of life and to create massive things. What that requires is getting hustly in the gym and sticking to your regime. Like as a man, like rock up every day, do your work every day, lead this motherfucking thing, be in a healthy state, be strong. And it was never about like, can you be a fighter with me and play in that? It was like, no, be a strong man. And that is the most beautiful thing in the world, because now we can stand side by side, because I'm going all the way up here, motherfucker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's one thing, like the gym used to be like a crutch for me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been completely rewired to the point where I don't need it to function anymore, but I desire the higher vibration that it sustains for me.
Yeah.
And that like I don't even need the gym to maintain like weight, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't like my body doesn't do the cyclical fat gain that it used to do all the time because I've removed the root causes that used to like create it in the first
Yeah.
place. And so now, to your point, it's literally like it is absolutely a value system
Yeah.
because without lifting weights and the maintaining the muscle mass that I've built and the cardiovascular endurance, you don't have the growth promoting tension training to stay in the uncomfortable parts of what like moving through different levels of life and becoming a different version of yourself literally requires. So
Yes.
for me, it's like this is just growth promoting tension and I
Yeah.
need to be doing that in the gym because it helps me sustain it in other areas of life.
Yeah. I mean, Deegan actually speaks to this all the time. He's like, he loves 75 hard. And when he was like, we're doing it, I was like, absolutely not. There is no way you're putting me in a thing where I have to do the same thing. Like, I am in flow. And I couldn't understand why he needed to do it. And I get it now. For a man, it's like, I'm
Yes.
just going to rock up and I'm going to do it every day and I'm going to hold this and I'm going to create discipline in myself, because if I do this discipline well here, I do discipline well in everything else in my life. And that's okay that he can do that over here. I mean, I don't need help with discipline. Like, I need help to not go to the gym.
I mean, we're Capricorns, Anna. There's no one needs to help us with discipline ever. And
Which
I'm
is the
with you.
problem. When the discipline was created around like, oh, just eat as little as possible and do the like the hyperness and the manicness around discipline that we have made that so bad.
Agreed. Agreed. 100% same. Same truth.
So now
And
we
now
apply this
it's like,
discipline to the purpose that we are out to do. You watch what happens. Yeah.
yes, like I just have full body goosebumps, 100% yes.
Yeah.
It's like not like that discipline is literally like on the path of mission, vision, purpose, impact, change the world,
Mm.
not a discipline that used to be literally connected into eat less, move more,
Yeah.
and like literally sacrifice my whole like being doing it. It's a
Yeah.
completely different discipline. And more often than not, if like, most of the women I coach or work with, they too don't have a discipline problem whatsoever.
Yeah. And this brings it back to what you said at the very start around this purpose. And I love this word at the moment, because what I'm noticing is you can have an abundant amount of energy. You can have an abundant amount of everything if you're living in purpose. Burnout doesn't come from doing too much work or doing too many things. It comes from not living inside of purpose. If you think you have purpose now and you're exhausted, it's probably not big enough.
Exactly. Like purpose is actually like found in clinical science. And we know all of this from in a clinical setting. Because what I think the most important distinction that you just said is it's like you can be equally as quote unquote busy if you're in purpose, but it's energy receiving to your system, not energy taking.
Yeah.
And that's what then like continues to sustain a thriving body at a cellular level. That we know all of that in science now.
For example, I read my novel too late last night, woke up a little bit tired. Now we're an hour and a bit into this podcast, and I'm like, I don't even need sleep.
Very similar pre-day and last night too. Same. Like, can you imagine? Like, so we're on different sides of the globe right now, but I can barely even imagine if this would have been like the first conversation of my day.
Yeah. We could do one at nighttime one time for me, so you can have the energy creating magic at the start of the day. I'm very sorry if you don't sleep tonight.
If anything, it's like, oh, now like the energy that you come in, like now it's the creative energy. And it's like you're able to go in and create from within. And that I think is another concept or another aspect of our human experience that has been robbed by, to so many others. Like they're just robbed of it, that creation energy. And it's so critically important in times like we have right now.
Yeah. Okay, so someone's heard all of this and they're like, yep, they're my problems. I want purpose. I want to have all of the things they've spoken about. I want the energy they've got because they seem like crazy motherfuckers that are getting all the things they want. So it's like, pick your person, right? Pick your person. Who did you love the most inside of this? And you've got one-on-one stuff. You've got group stuff going on. So I will have all of those links in the show notes. To the Instagram. Her Instagram is amazing, by the way. I look at it every day and I'm like, yeah, Erin.
I mean, even just feeling safe enough to post my own disruptive beliefs online has been a journey, Hannah.
Right?
That in and of itself has been a journey. And the current fat loss phase that I'm in, my brain did not plan, my body led. And a lot of that is unfolding as the more like punchy those my posts on Instagram become. It's like the more my body is able to receive and the safer she feels releasing fat. I have literally in the last 8 weeks, I have lost more inches and more adipose tissue, like weight on the scale, fat, than I've ever lost my first 8 weeks of a fat loss session in like since 2018.
Speaking
Like
the truth,
the
who would have
speed,
thought?
exactly, right? It's like every time I log in to look at the average weight over the past 8 weeks and to do measurements, my brain is blown. And I've been doing this like since 2018. And I'm just like, oh yeah, well, it makes sense because I'm expressing my truth publicly.
Yes.
And we forget how important that is because we're all here on purpose, for a mission with a vision. I firmly believe that. Like sometimes it's really hard to see it when you're in the crux of the messy middle and you're trying to just crawl up and like wake out of bed every morning. And I get it. I've been there. But this is where it's like, I got goosebumps just sharing it because finding what that mission, vision, and purpose was for myself, it's been a like lesson in fat loss maintenance.
Yeah. I mean, very interestingly, I was stuck at a plateau for 6 months. And I knew this podcast was supposed to start. It was 2 years I'd been sitting on it. And I started the podcast and started posting content every day. All of my gut issues disappeared within a week.
Yep.
Like just done. No more bloating. I go to the toilet. Just done. And it's like my body's done all the things I wanted it to have done because I'm now getting to tell my story and speak my truth. And even if it's messy and even if it's just get it out and do it and do it and do it and do it. And I love this, I love that statement that you made about the punchier that it gets, because there's a beauty in that, because what you're actually doing is giving a little bit of silence and a bit of space. So rather than this over explaining because you need to be heard and you need to make sure that you get your point across because you've not been heard before, you can get a laser and make your point and shut the fuck up. And that is so solid. And that is so much safety within you. No wonder.
Exactly. Right? Because they're specifically crafted literally based off of my values and how I've shifted my body from packing on fat cyclically every 3 to 6 months, no matter how often I was in a gym or how little I ate. And so imagine, like, that's how laser focused I'm getting. And I'm also very fluent in Erickson's stages of development. So you can speak into where, current parts of people are, and that's what creates the resonance.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't do that a year ago. I couldn't do that 2 years ago. Like, there were certain aspects of my own journey and certain things I had to go through that were extremely hard, but I wouldn't change any of it for the world, because it's like being able to feel safe enough to get punchy about your own truth there's nothing more freeing than that.
Yeah.
And when I look at what most women are looking for when they come into any of my programs or services, it's peace and freedom. And there isn't a day that goes by that someone can say BS on, or, strawman fallacies all over Instagram, and I'm not phased.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even phased, Hannah. That, like, from someone who literally couldn't speak her truth, that started in 13. I started at 13. It's like my truth was shamed. And that was all it took for me to silence myself. So from 13 to almost 40, I held so many things. And that burden gets carried on the body.
Yeah. That's powerful. Okay, well, we really do need to get on the phone call. We're really busy women at the same time. We've got another thing to get onto.
We do.
So we'll call it there. All the links for both of us will be in the show notes. Either one is going to change your life. And I really mean that. Always pick the thing that makes you feel in your heart, always.
Couldn't agree more.
And I don't doubt that we will do this again because it's so much fun.
Looking forward to it.
For our own benefit, not for your guys' benefit, for our own benefit, for the energy that it provides for us in the day. Enjoy it or don't, I don't care.
I'm ready to schedule the next one because it's just so much fun that you're just like, oh yeah, this is what it's really like.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do that. You will see us together again in the next month or two.
All right, everybody.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Yes. Thank you, Hannah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.